Flipper Canorius, which at the time we could not find anywhere.
Hollywood from 9 to 5.
Hello! Today I'm launching a new series of videos where I'm going to talk about some of the non-glamorous 9-to-5 kind of jobs available to people who want to work in the entertainment industry. Maybe you want to be an actor or a writer or director, but you need income until that happens, or you just love TV and movies and want to work in them. So I'm going to start the series with jobs I've actually had, and so today I'm going to talk about being a dialogue list transcriptionist. It's often called English editor, script editor, master English transcriber, or just part of the English department or international versioning department. Lots of companies like to have a slightly different name for this department, but it's all basically the same department. I did this as part of my job for about 8 years, and basically you watch a TV show or a movie and you write down exactly what each character says. You put a start time to when they start speaking. Sometimes you put an end time, but not every place asks that you do that, but be prepared that you might be asked to put down an end time. And then you put in who is speaking and you write down everything you hear. You include in the dialogue list any filler words that they might use, like or like, and pretty much any noise that comes from the head kind of region gets included in your list. So if someone goes, you would write that down. You can either write it down like tisk, sigh, or you can try and more accurately represent, like if someone says or you'll spell those things differently, or you know, you try and give as complete a record of every single noise that a character makes with their head, not like you wouldn't include that or that, just head kind of noises, and just as 100% accurately as you possibly can. So like if a character goes, no, part of the job of the dialogue transcriptionist is to count how many times they said no and write it down. So you might be going back over and listening to those sections several times to make sure that if they said no 9 times, you wrote it down 9 times, not 8 times. Or if they said no, that you write no, so that it's exactly what was said. You'll also need to break up long sections. If someone has a monologue, you don't want to include like a 2-page entry of what they're saying. You want it in little sort of bite-sized sections, so after every few sentences, when there's a natural breath or pause in their speaking, put a new end time, put a new entry in your dialogue list. If a character speaks in a foreign language, you'll need to include that, but in most instances, someone down along the chain of people who you deal with will either hire someone who speaks that language to come in and do that transcription part for you, or the company that hired you to do the whole dialogue list in the first place will provide that foreign language to you. I've worked on 2 movies where the foreign language in question was Martian. And in one instance, they supplied us with a phonetic list of all the Martian, and we just had to go through and make sure that's what we were hearing and cross out if a word didn't seem to make it. And in another instance, we were asked to do our best to just phonetically write down the Martian that we were hearing. If a character mouths something, you need to include that, and anything that the person watching the movie might be expected to read needs to also be included. So if a character holds up a letter, even sometimes if there's a sign in the background that says open or closed or entrance or something like that, you would also need to include that in the dialogue list, even though technically it's not dialogue. You'll also want to include something called walla, which is characters talking in the background. So like if there's a scene in a bar, the walla section, in that case, if it's sort of just indistinct chatter, you just write down, you know, bar walla as the speaker, and then in the transcription part, write down whatever you can hear, just to give the translator some idea of what kinds of things are said in that particular area. Like if it's a bar, they might be like, oh, next round's on me. If it's a racetrack, they might be, come on, you can do it, come on, you're the one. I bet all my money on you, I'm gonna lose my house. Things like that that might be going on in those walla sections. Walla is usually recorded after the fact. The people who are in a background in any particular scene are probably silent, so they're just mouthing and pretending to have conversations, or if they're not very good at that, they're talking really soft so that they are not overlapping what the actual main characters are saying, so that that can be recorded nice and cleanly, and they can add in all the background stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be in sync with people later. So there's a group of people called a loop group or walla group who will go into a studio, and often they'll just be asked to improv. They'll be told, okay, now we need sounds from a bar, and then they will sort of make up and pretend what they would be saying if they were in a bar. We've had one project. When I say we, I'm talking about projects that I worked on when I worked at a big company that had an English department. Of course you can freelance, but it's a little bit less collaborative about these things. So when I was working at the big company that had a department, on one project we were sent a dialogue track, audio track, just of the walla. They really wanted to make sure that the walla we were writing down was accurate, which is a little bit strange. Not all productions are that concerned that the walla you're getting be 100% accurate. As long as it gives the idea of what is being said in that scene, it's usually okay. You'll often also encounter dialogue that is indistinct, where you can't understand what they're saying. Often you will receive a shooting script, which is a version of the script that they used to shoot the movie or TV show, but obviously when they get to the editing room or on location when an actor is acting, they might misspeak and not say exactly what's in the shooting script, which is why the shooting script is not what's sent to the translators. Plus in the editing they might reorder the scenes, cut scenes, add scenes later in reshoots, so it's just a guideline. And when there are indistinct words, often you can hear them once you read the shooting script and know what the actor was supposed to be saying. So it can be a big help. When we worked on Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, there's a scene you might go look up where Jack Sparrow talks about the cuttlefish. There's a word that he says in that, flippercanorious, which at the time we could not find anywhere. It was not in the shooting script that was provided. The internet had not yet caught up to this word existing. Now if you search the internet for it, it will come up. We basically understood what he was saying phonetically, but we could not find any verification that this was an actual word and not just some babbling, rambling thing that he was saying. Now if you listen to it, you can hear it perfectly, and we all, you know, laugh about, oh, remember we couldn't understand flippercanorious. But it does us no good. The movie went out, so whatever it says in foreign languages is what it says. In English, he says flippercanorious. Hopefully, if you've tried to watch it with subtitles or closed captions on, they have the right word, but I don't know. You'll also often include if a character is on camera or off camera when they're speaking. This is because a translator has, well, there's kind of two kinds of translators. One kind takes the script that we give them and translates it as verbatim, sort of accurately as possible. And then there's another translator. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's two people. So the second translator is called an adapter, and they will take the perfect foreign language translation of a movie, and they will try and substitute words if needed to make it match when mouths or heads are moving a little bit better. So they need to know if a character is off camera or on camera, because when a character is speaking from off camera, they don't have to worry if it's a lot more syllables than it was in English, because there's nothing to match, there's nothing to worry about. So sometimes you have to include that, not 100% of the time. For a television show, you usually update the dialogue list once. So you write it once, and then you update it once. Often when you do the first version, you don't have a final version of that episode of television. So like in Desperate Housewives, I know these are all sort of old references, but I did this a while ago. So in Desperate Housewives, there's a character who narrates every episode. So in the preliminary version that you might work on, it's not really the actress saying these lines, it's just someone from the editing room who's reading the script just as a placeholder for pacing, and to make sure that they're going to keep those sections. They don't want to bring in the actor who's going to be paid a lot more money when they might not use what she said, or they need to change it and then bring her back a second time. So you'll get a preliminary version that's not quite final, and then you'll get a final version of that episode of TV, usually close to when it is going to be coming out, and usually on a very tight turnaround. So like you could only have 24 hours from when a final version of a TV show arrives until you have to have your revised, edited dialogue list back out to the client. So a movie, though, might have as many as 10 versions. So you'll get various edits along the way, and you have to make changes to them. Usually when you're making the changes, you do something like just bold and underline what has changed, so that you're sending it to a translator, and the translator doesn't have to redo the whole movie. They can just look for where you said, they changed this word, and then they can see if, do I need to change that word? Is the word that I used okay? You know, just they need to know what's different without having to review the entire thing again, because they're even on more of a time crunch than the dialogue editors are. So yeah, I've had movies, 10 versions. One movie that I worked on, we even had to put the previous version up on one monitor with the new version on this one, watch them simultaneously, and mark by highlighting if they had used a different take. So the dialogue might not have changed at all, but the actor's performance was slightly different, or the camera was from a different angle or something, and we had to point that out also, which was really annoying to have to do. Usually you don't have to get that detailed into it, but be prepared that you could be asked to do something like that. Every project that you're going to work on, you have signed a non-disclosure agreement about. Most projects have a code name, so you are not at risk if you're out and about and you say, oh yeah, I was working on Rummy today and blah blah blah, and they're like, what's Rummy? And so, oh, that's the movie I'm working on. I'm not allowed to tell you the real title of. Don't let it slip that you're working on something that you are not supposed to talk about, because you are working on these things sometimes a year in advance. A lot of movies get made and finished, and then they just sit around waiting and waiting and waiting, and you can't talk about it until it comes out, and you could have reasonably seen the movie the same way as everyone else at the movie theater. So get in the habit of using the code name, because the non-disclosure agreement is there for a reason, and you don't want to violate that. You want to build trust with your clients. So why does this job exist? The list here, a dialogue list, as you may have guessed already, is sent to translators for dubbing. So dubbing is when the English dialogue is removed from the movie and it's replaced entirely with performances by the actors in whatever country and language it's being dubbed into. So that's why you need all of the noises that they are making with their heads, because all of that from the same recording is going to be erased and, well, not erased, removed from the movie and replaced with someone in that new language. By creating a dialogue list in English, you're ensuring that every translator is receiving the exact same record of the movie. So it's not up to someone who doesn't speak English natively to watch the movie, transcribe the English, and then translate into their language. It's all given to them as, here is what the movie is, please translate this. The dialogue list also gets included in something called a combined continuity and spotting list, or CCSL. I will talk about what spotting is and what continuity is and what annotations are, which also go into the CCSL in most cases, in different videos, but I'm just talking about dialogue list right now. Also, if you work at a company that has different departments within the English area that do something called closed captioning and spotting, and sometimes even audio description, the dialogue list gets sent to those other departments as a starting point for them to create the various different kinds of lists that they create, so that every single department that does something similar doesn't have to start from scratch transcribing an entire movie. Let me put up an example of a dialogue list. I'm just going to use a clip from one of my videos, maybe even from this video. I don't know yet. I'll do that in post, just so you can see what the format is, and it's pretty self-explanatory: in time, character, me in this case, and the dialogue, what I was saying. Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the job of spotting list creation. This falls into the category of English editor. What qualifications do you need to have this job? The biggest one is English fluency. Fast typing is also helpful. If you're working from home, usually as a freelancer, but during the pandemic, a lot of people started working from home, you need a computer that has a fast enough video processor that it can handle whatever size file, video file that they send to you. And you'll probably need some basic software like Word, Excel, maybe a Final Draft or some kind of script writing software, PDF reader, video players. A lot of companies also have now their own proprietary software, which is designed to make this all easy and seamlessly transfer from one person to the next. Usually it's web-based. You'll be given a password and login information to use their website to do this work, and their software will contain like a little video screen and then a template where you actually fill in the information. So you just need to not be too intimidated if someone throws a different piece of software at you and is like, this one you play it with a 5, that's how to make the video go. This one you play it with a space bar, that's how you make the video go. Just to be a little bit flexible in learning those different things. Basically they all come down to the same thing: a button or keystroke or mouse click that will mark the in time, copying it from the video, and then you type in who the speaker is and what they say. You will most likely have to take a test before you get this kind of work. It's an English test and a proofreading test. The tests are almost always open book or open internet. It's not designed to catch you out that something is spelled wrong. It's more designed to find out if you can see something and go, that doesn't look like it's spelled right, and then do the little bit of research required to find out how to spell it. So the proofreading is almost as important as your basic English skills. You do need strong English skills. You need to know if you know what a compound word is, that school children is one word, not two words, if you have an opinion on how okay should be spelled, those are good traits to have going into this. You do not necessarily need a college degree, although it's probably hard to get your resume past the initial screening if you don't have a college degree on there. I have worked with people in this department who don't have bachelor's degrees, and it just comes down to how good is your English, how good is your work ethic, how good is your English. And a degree is nice, but it's not a deal breaker. If you can make the right connection to get your resume in so you can get to the next stage of having a test, then the test is the most important thing. It's more important than anything else that's going to be on your resume. A lot of companies will tell you they're going to train you how to do this stuff, but they're probably not going to. They are going to show you an example of what they expect your finished work to look like, and then they're not going to have time to ever do the training. So you need to be really good at figuring things out on your own and very self-motivated to learn how to do things if you want to have this job. And especially if you're freelancing, you don't make money freelancing by learning how to do things. You only make money freelancing by getting things done. People who have a lot of attention to detail and who can get a little bit obsessive about things, if you've ever been called pedantic, this might be a good job for you. Okay, what are the downsides to having a job as a dialogue transcriptionist? The main one is that a lot of projects have tight deadlines, so you don't necessarily get to make a lot of after work or weekend plans. Starting a dialogue list is dependent on the editing room getting the latest edit of a television show or a movie to you for the next step of creating the dialogue list. Editing room schedules are often created with cuts being due at like 3 o'clock the Friday before a holiday weekend. So as the dialogue list person, you'll get files Friday evening, and your dialogue list will probably be due Tuesday morning as soon as everyone else gets back from their wonderful 3-day weekend. You are expected to work that weekend. I worked for a company doing this for about 8 years, and I had to work, if not every Thanksgiving day, then all but one Thanksgiving day, and definitely I had to work every Friday after Thanksgiving, and often the Saturday and Sunday after Thanksgiving as well. A lot of production companies and editing rooms take a 2-week break around Christmas. So that's good news for you as a dialogue editor, that even though you might have a project come in during that stretch of time between Christmas and New Year's, it's not going to be on as tight a turnaround as it would be over a regular holiday weekend, because there's that span of time when nobody's available to receive it from you. So use that to your advantage. Know that you can usually take a day or two off around Christmas or New Year's, And maybe even if you're at a big company, they encourage you to and work with the clients and say, look, we're going to be closed, or we're going to send everyone on their vacation days they haven't been able to take the rest of the year during this time. Also, because everything now is much more global, it's not unusual to have a weird deadline like 9 p.m. on Sunday night, so that as soon as someone gets into the office in some other city in the world, like in India somewhere, or in London, or in South Africa, they have the materials ready to work on at the start of their day, instead of sitting around doing nothing, waiting till you finally get it done. I know it's kind of not fair that you have to worry about what time they're getting to work, but it's everyone. I think everyone gets the fuzzy end of the stick in this scheduling thing in dialogue list creation. So they've got problems too. You just don't know about them. So a lot of the timelines and turnarounds are based on a global economy. What does it pay? If you get a job as part of an English department at a company, first of all, you are not only going to be doing dialogue list creation. You're going to have to learn how to do spotting lists or annotations or continuity writing or closed captioning or creative letter writing or something else, because it's not enough work to keep you there as a regular full-time employee. So keep that in mind. If you just want to write dialogue lists, you're better off freelancing. The pay at a big company, nobody's getting rich, but you can pay your bills. It's enough for a single person to pay their rent, to get a car, not a Tesla, and to not have to worry too much about if they can pay their bills. You're not going to be living a lavish life, but you'll be doing okay. And my biggest recommend, if you do get in with a big company, is don't be salaried. I hate being salaried. I'm often salaried when I work at actual companies and don't freelance. And I don't see how this is good for any employee as an option. After 11 hours of overtime in 1 week, which was not hard to accomplish, as the salaried person on the floor, because I was the supervisor and everyone else was hourly, I then was earning the least amount of money hourly anyone was making on the floor. As far as being a freelancer, you will get told the pay rate, and if you don't get told the pay rate before you accept a job, don't accept the job. Tell them, I need to know what this pays before you accept the job. So you will know what it pays before you accept it, and then you can decide if it's going to work for you or not. You should have some idea of how long it takes you to, for instance, transcribe one 20-minute reel of a feature. And if they say it's going to pay you $100 to transcribe 20 minutes of a feature, and you're like, that's going to take me 12 hours to do, so no, I'm not going to do that, then you're in a better position than just being like, okay, sounds good, whatever it pays, I don't know how long it's going to take me, and then hour after hour getting madder and madder that you're making not even probably minimum wage in some cases. So those kind of projects that pay very badly, I do take them, but I take them as a second or third project, if they have enough time, because all they can tell you is what they're going to pay you and when it's due. They can't tell you you can't work on it from 1 a.m. until 3 a.m. every day. They have no input in when you are scheduling your work. So if you are the kind of person who likes to just be working and working and working, and you're seeing movies and TV because that's what you're working on, and you're not feeling like you're missing watching movies and TV, then you can double or triple book yourself. And if some of them don't pay that well, it's okay, because you're sort of making it up on the other projects. And usually I just take those projects to keep my name in with a company and my goodwill going for them so that they know I am around and available and willing to work. So I'll probably do a video just about freelancing, but I wanted to, for now, just give you an idea of what a dialogue transcriptionist does and the different places you might work as a dialogue transcriptionist. And I hope it gives you a better understanding of a job that maybe you didn't even realize existed. So these are the things that people do from 9 to 5 in Hollywood when you look at those big office buildings and wonder, who's in there? What are they doing? This is one of the things that they're doing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see all the videos I'm going to do in this series and learn about the jobs that people have in Hollywood that aren't glamorous, that just get you through from 9 to 5.